Your mattress is made of straw and mice. You try not to move too much. The crunch wakes guilt more than it wakes sleep. The air doesn't move tonight. It settles on your chest like an old regret, the kind you stop naming after a while. Cold, but not crisp. More like wet cloth hung in the wrong season. Still, waiting. You've forgotten how long you've been lying there, watching the ceiling like it might speak. It doesn't. It just leaks sometimes. Your stomach gave up asking for more hours ago. Hunger isn't hunger anymore. Just a hollow rhythm you've learned to count by. Outside, something creaks, a roof beam, a rat, a memory you don't check. Somewhere, beneath the silence, a question keeps breathing. What if history erased you? On purpose? What if your hands shaped a world, but no one left room for your name? What if your garden fed gods, kings, armies, but no one asked who planted it? What if the soft mud of your life was enough to float a city, but not enough to be remembered? You turn your head, the wall is cracked in the corner, it looks like a map, or maybe a scar, you trace it with your eyes. And for a moment, the crack becomes a canal, a path, a beginning. There are stories that don't begin with heroes, only hands and mud. Tell us where you're listening from, or what time your night begins. The first thing you feel is cold, morning cold, the kind that settles into joints and refuses to leave until the sun leans in. You're awake before the birds, or maybe they're already awake and simply quieter than you tonight. You rise, the wool cloak you pull over your shoulders is rough. Smells of damp dust and roasted Maggie. Your knees resist you. So does the sky. It's not dark, not light, just that blue, gray murk before anything decides what it wants to be. Your name isn't written anywhere, not in any record, but your work will be. Maybe you step outside. The causeway stretches in the near distance, glistening in puddled moonlight. Beyond it, the lake. Beyond that, the city, Tenochtitlan, but you don't look at the city, not yet. You look down, because under your sandals, under the reeds and the packed earth is your garden, your Chinampa. You do not call it that. Not out loud, not like the scribes might later. To you, it is just ours, the plot, the island, the gift from your grandfather and his grandfather before him. Built not on land, but from land coaxed out of lake and silt and centuries. You crouch, press your palm to the damp weave of reeds and roots that hold it all together. It flexes, slightly, but it holds. It always holds. That wasn't always true. You remember the year the floods came too early. The maize drowned, the amaranth wilted. You remember that year as the year your brother stopped speaking. Not forever, just long enough to teach you how silence can be a kind of mourning. You shake that off now. Gently, like the mist clinging to your sleeves. The lake smells of fish, yes, but also of something else. Sweet, decaying, like flowers left too long on a grave. You move to the edge of the Chinampa. A pole in your hand, worn smooth where your fingers have found it for years. You prod the shallows, check the anchoring stakes, bamboo mostly, some willow. Their tips sink softly into the lakebed, right where they should. You built this with your mother, not with blueprints, not with rules, but with breath and woven mats and borrowed patience. The mud came first, always the mud. You'd gather it in baskets, thick and cool. You remember how your hands wrinkled, how your fingers swelled from hours in the silt. You remember your mother's voice. This is how we grow the earth, with our hands, not waiting for the gods to shape it. You didn't understand her then. You were 9, you understand her now. As you walk the length of the island, you drag your fingers through the leaves of the growing beans. Their vines cling to the stalks of corn milpa. The old ones call this holy trio. Corn, beans, squash, each feeds the other. Each gives what the others lack, like family. A soft creak behind you. You don't turn. It's just the boat, or maybe the wind catching the reeds, but you feel the hairs on your arm rise. Not from fear, from memory. You once asked a priest if the Chinampas were sacred. He said no. Sacred things were temples, stone, blood. The lake was just water. The mud was just dirt. He had never spent a day with the maize. You watch the wind bend the tops of the stalks. They move like dancers, slow, deliberate, heads bowed. Not for you, for the rain that hasn't come. The lake is lower this year. You don't say that aloud. That would be ungrateful, or worse, inviting trouble. Instead, You do what you always do. You feed the earth. You scatter crushed shells where the roots are thin. Add ground fish bones to the squash mounds. Whisper thanks, or maybe it's just breathe. Your fingers are brown with dirt always, but today, under this pale sky, they look carved, almost old. Your hands are maps, they remember the dirt. Later, you'll take the boat out. Visit the other islands, trade chilies. See if the woman with the bird-shaped scars has any tobacco leaves. But not yet. Now is for the garden. Now is for remembering how this all began. Because long before the Chinampas floated, the people sank. The valley was not always so generous. It flooded, then dried, then cracked. The gods, they said, had drowned too. The world was built on corpses. This was just another kind of resurrection. So the farmers made their own land. They built it not on stone, but on dreams. Bundles of reeds packed with lake mud, anchored with willow, layered with decay and hope. They planted where nothing should grow, and it grew. Even the empire, with its obsidian and gold and bone altars, needed you. No flower in the emperor's garden was born without your dirt, but no one carves your name into temple walls. You walk the length of your island once more. Feel its soft give beneath your feet. It sways. Like sleep, somewhere behind you the wind shifts. The birds begin, and you think if the earth must be woven by hand, whose hands will come after yours, the birds begin, not all at once, just one. A cautious trill from the reeds, half-hearted, as if the bird itself isn't quite ready to believe in the morning. Then another, then more. You do not answer them. You keep moving. The edge of the island is soft today, softer than you like. Too much rain last week. Not enough sun to bake the silt into steadiness. Your left heel sinks slightly into the mulch, and when you pull it free, it makes a noise like something exhaling. You sigh with it, quiet, felt more in your ribs than in the air. Your pole is already in the canoe, balanced across the middle like a forgotten prayer. You step in, one foot, then the other. The boat rocks not in alarm, but recognition. It knows your weight. You've not grown any lighter. You push off. The water accepts you, not quickly, not warmly, just, without resistance, like it does most things until it doesn't. The Chinampas stretch out in slow, irregular rows, soft green squares, floating between canals like forgotten pages. Each one a breath of land built by hands like yours. Woven, layered, coaxed from the lake like something stolen from the gods and buried shallow so no one would notice. Some of the islands steam slightly warmth, rising from damp earth into cold air. Others lie dark, resting, left fallow for a season of mourning or mercy. One has a dog sitting on it. You don't know whose. Your pole finds the lake bottom with a muted thunk. You push again, and the boat glides forward like it's listening. Across the water, you see her, not clearly. The mist breaks her shape into pieces a shoulder here, the bright thread of her shawl, then gone. Then there again, she's walking one of the islands barefoot, you think. Probably just checking for fungus or ghosts. She lost someone last year. You didn't ask who, you nod. She doesn't see. You pass the island with the chilies. The man who grows them thin, tall, bones like bundled reeds, waves at you with a hand still red from the morning harvest. You nod again. Your hands do not wave back. They are holding too much today. The pole, the cold, the memory. He tells you not loudly that the emperor's men were seen near the causeway this morning, looking, not for food, for taxes, or blood, or both. You thank him with a glance. You do not stop. The lake doesn't like noise this early. The water here is shallow, thick with lilies, duckweed, forgotten sandals. Your pole pushes through it like someone stirring old soup, and then you stop because they're just beyond the second turn, where the canal narrows. Something's wrong. Not wrong like danger, wrong like off, like a song missing a beat. You let the boat drift. The mist curls into your hair, damp and expectant. There, where the edge of the Chinampa should be straight, it folds, caves slightly inward, as though the earth has sighed and given up in one breath. You pull closer. The corner of the island is collapsing. One of the bamboo stakes has snapped not recently, not violently, just slowly, as things do when no one is looking. The water is eating the edge now. Not hungrily, methodically, patient as a debt. You pull the boat alongside. Step out, the soil sinks beneath your heel. Cold, loose you kneel, touch the brake. There's rot. Not the kind you can smell yet. Not the loud rot. This is early, quiet. It smells like time. You sit back on your heels. Stare at the edge, the missing corner, the way the lake waits. You will need to fix this before the rains return, before the inspectors come, before it swallows the maze. You'll need more reeds, maybe rope, maybe help. You do not want to ask for help. A fish jumps somewhere behind you. Its splash breaks the thought. You remember what your uncle said once, just once, while you were patching a canoe with him under the red heat of evening. The lake doesn't hate you. It just doesn't care if you drown. You stayed quiet after that. Now you begin to dig. The first layer comes up easy, soft, new. The second is tangled with roots. You pull them free gently, like lifting thread from wet cloth. The third layer is older. Packed, dense, it resists your fingers. You taste earth in the back of your throat. As you dig, you find it not treasure, not bones, not tools. A piece of cloth, just a corner, faded, wrapped around something. You hesitate because cloth does not grow from soil, not unless it was buried. Your fingers move slower now. You peel back the dirt, unwrap the shape. It is a small wooden idol, worn, smooth from too many hands. Eyes painted once, long faded, one arm missing. You do not breathe for a moment. You know this figure, not personally, but culturally. Old gods, some say, earth gods, pre-gods, the ones your grandparents didn't speak of, but never threw away. You are told not to dig too deep, and yet you look at the broken corner of your chinampa, the soft erosion, the faint rot, and now this. Was it buried for blessing or warning? The morning sun tries to break the mist. Fails, the lake stays quiet. You sit there, cloth in one hand, idol in the other, and the earth beneath you sways again. Not from your weight, not from wind, but from something older, something remembering. You close your eyes and wonder what else is buried in this lake beneath the gardens we wove. You do not move for a long time, not because you're afraid that would be too clean, too simple. No, what you feel is quieter, a kind of held breath behind the ribs, a weight you weren't expecting to carry today. The idol sits in your palm like it belongs there. Wood worn smooth from touch, paint faded to ash, one limb missing. It stares up at you with no eyes. You turn it over. The cloth is older than the idol. Or maybe it just feels old or soft in a way that reminds you of skin or sorrow. It smells faintly of cornmeal and river clay. There's a knot in one corner. You don't untie it. You shouldn't have found this. And yet the lake gave it. Or maybe the garden surrendered it. Something loosened when the corner broke. Something you were never meant to hold. You look at the chinampa again. The edge still sags. The bamboo stake, cracked in half, sticks up like a snapped bone. The water gnaws at the mud in slow circles. You dig a little more gently, as if the soil might flinch. There's nothing else, just the idol. You wrap it again, set it in the fold of your cloak for now. You'll ask the old woman in the canals, the one with the burned wrist who speaks to dogs if she recognizes it. Quietly, you don't want a priest involved. Not yet. The boat rocks slightly as you step back in. The sound of it wood against water is hollow, hollow in a way that reminds you of memory or loss. You push off. The pole stirs the shallows like someone trying to remember. The sky is clearing now. Pale blue, thin as old fabric. The sun doesn't warm, not yet. It just watches. You pass more chinampas, some with smoke curling up from clay stoves, others still asleep, their crops wrapped in mourning, dew like borrowed silk. And then you see them, the officials, 3 of them, on the next island, wrapped in embroidered cloaks, feathers in their hair like they earned the birds' approval. They do not touch the soil. One points toward a field of squash with a stick, as if naming it is the same as planting it. You do not approach. Instead, you pull the boat into the reeds and wait. The birds go quiet. The lake seems to hold its breath. You watch the way the officials move, measured, pompous. They don't see the broken stakes. They don't see the water rising under the edges. They see plants and call it tax. You hold the wrapped idol tighter in your lap. Hidden beneath the folds, it feels warmer now. Or maybe your hands have just stopped being cold. After a while, the officials move on. You wait a little longer. You don't trust footsteps that leave no prints. When it's quiet again, you slip back out. Toward the southern edge of the Chinampa clusters the older plots. The forgotten ones, you've avoided this path for months, maybe longer. The canals narrow here, the air thickens. There's a smell, not rot, not quite. Something like old paper and wet rope. The kind of scent history leaves when it's buried in shallow water. You guide the canoe with care. You pass a sunken island. Just a few sticks now. No plants, no roots, gone. You wonder whose it was. You pass another, not sunken, but sick. The crops lean too far. The ground weeps at the edges. A child's toy carved from bone floats in the reeds, forgotten. And then, you reach hers. You don't know her name. No one says it anymore. They just call her La Bruja del Mangle, the witch of the mangrove. She isn't a witch. She just remembers too much. Her island looks different than the others. Lower to the water, not from weakness, from design. The earth is darker here. The trees twist in shapes that don't match wind. The roots crawl across the banks like fingers. She's there, sitting, threading something between her knees, reeds, you think, or maybe hair. You don't speak, not yet. You pull the boat close, anchor it softly with a branch. Step out. The ground is firmer than you expected. She doesn't look up. Was it broken? She asks, as if the question had been waiting before you arrived. You don't ask how she knows. It's easier to answer. Yes, she nods, still threading. Her fingers are thin, knotted like old branches. Her shawl smells of wood smoke and bitter herbs. You dug too deep. You don't respond. The idol in your cloak suddenly feels heavier. She reaches beside her and lifts something, a bowl, clay burned on one side. Put it there. She says. You hesitate, then unwrap the cloth gently, slowly. Set the idol in the bowl. It fits too perfectly. Like a story someone forgot to finish, she doesn't touch it. She just stares. Do you know who this is? You ask. She doesn't look at you. No one important. Then, after a moment, but someone remembered. You don't understand. Not fully. She sets the bowl down in the dirt. The roots twitch slightly. You pretend you didn't see. Then she says, almost kindly, they buried their gods when the new ones came, but gods don't rot. Only the names do. You sit down. The air here feels thicker now. Time moves differently, slower, like it's been soaking in brine. You'll need to re-anchor your island. She says, the lake is rising. You nod, and bring the dead something sweet. Cornbread or flowers, not bones. You look at the idol again. Small, wooden, forgotten. But why now? You ask, why me? She shrugs. You listened. A bird cries out, sharp and sudden, far above, and the wind finally moves through the mangroves. You feel it in your bones. Not cold, not warm, just awake. You leave the bowl behind, the idol too, not because it belongs to her, but because it doesn't belong to you, not anymore. You step into the boat, push off. The canal ripples behind you, slow and quiet, like something exhaling. The sun has risen now, but it doesn't reach here, not fully. And as you drift back toward your island, you wonder what else have we buried in the gardens we still eat from. The sun follows, but slowly. It hangs there, heavy in the haze, as if unsure whether it should bless or burn. You keep your eyes low, not out of reverence, out of habit. The light doesn't belong to you. It belongs to the priests, to the stones, to the places where blood runs down steps and crowds cheer for silence. But here, on the water, you are allowed to squint. The pole creaks softly in your hand as you steer. The boat rocks. A rhythm forms, not unlike the breath of sleep. Push, float, pause. Push, float, pause. It calms something in your chest. Behind you, the mangrove island disappears in mist, like a memory trying to forget itself. You don't speak as you pass the sick chinampas again. You nod at the collapsed one, not a greeting, just acknowledgement, a small, shared truth. We're still floating. Your own garden comes into view. Not much has changed. That's the danger. The sagging corner waits for your hands. The maze leans into the still air. A hawk circles overhead, but not for you. The bird knows the difference between dying and sleeping. You pull ashore. Step out. The ground holds your weight, mostly. Before anything else, you kneel, not to pray, to dig. You push your fingers into the earth like roots. Pull out the soft rot. Drop it into a basket again. Again. The rhythm is slower than paddling, and heavier. This soil remembers everything you've ever said with your hands. When the sun reaches your shoulders, you pause. Unwrap a small tortilla. Cold. Cracked. You chew without tasting. Your body is a tool today. Tools don't complain. You think of the bowl you left behind, of the idol, curled like a seed inside it. You don't believe in omens, but still you found it when your garden broke. Not before, not after. You've seen enough to know timing is its own kind of god. A soft noise interrupts you. Behind the maze, you stand. A figure emerges, thin, careful steps, carrying a bundle wrapped in red cloth. Your neighbor, the one with the chilies, he gives you a look. Not sharp, not soft, just shared. I saw you head south, he says, as if it were a confession. You nod. Nothing to explain. He sets down the bundle. Unwraps it. Reads, tied together with fiber, fresh, cut. You'll need these, he says. You nod again, this time slower. His gaze drifts toward the broken corner. He doesn't comment, just crouches. Runs his hand over the ground. Pulls out a small weed and flicks it into the canal. You know. He says, my grandfather used to say the lake doesn't take it trades. Everything it swallows, it gives something back. You raise an eyebrow. He chuckles, dry. Sometimes the trade is just regret. You share the silence that follows. Then he stands, dusts his knees. You'll need help. I can manage, you say. He shakes his head, not dismissive. Just tired. You shouldn't have to. Before you can argue, he's already leaving. The reeds stay. You sit again, the weight of his kindness more confusing than the idol. You start rebuilding. You drive new stakes deep into the lake bed. They resist, then yield. You weave the reeds between them tight, crisscrossed, the way your mother taught you. You shovel fresh mud into the frame, press it down with your palms. It oozes between your fingers like breath made solid. Hours pass, the sun climbs, the lake sweats. Your back aches in the old places. Your thoughts do too, and then a shadow. You look up, a child, not yours, not yet anyone's, maybe 7, maybe 9. Barefoot, standing on the edge of the garden, eyes dark and round as lake stones. You say nothing. They step forward, offer a flower. It's wilted, yellow, smells like dust. You take it. The child nods once and leaves. You're too tired to chase meaning. You stick the flower in the wet earth at the garden's edge. A mocker, a question, a joke. As evening creeps in, the water stills. The birds return. The garden holds. Not perfectly, not forever, but enough. You sit at the edge, bare feet dangling into the canal. Your soles are blistered, your fingers stained, your breath slow. You watch the way the surface reflects the sky, as if the lake, too, wants to pretend it's air. You wonder if the gods buried in this water ever get lonely. The idol, the bowl, the child, the reed bundle. You wonder how many hands have shaped this garden, how many names never made it past the mist. You lean back, look at the sky through tired lashes, and think, what if the earth remembers what history forgets? Night does not fall here. It seeps. 1 minute, the sky is bronze, clinging to the last warmth. The next, it's ink, thick around the edges. You didn't notice the shift. You rarely do any more. The garden is quiet. Not asleep, just listening. The fresh reeds you wove today are already darker, damp from the air, heavier than before. The earth hasn't accepted them yet. It takes time. Soil is stubborn when it's wounded. You lie flat on your back beside the maze, the ground cool against your spine. A few fireflies drift above, blinking without rhythm like lost thoughts, still searching for their endings. Your hands hurt. The ache is low, deep in the wrists. Not pain, exactly more like memory. The bones remember the work even when the mind tries to rest. Above you, the stars appear slowly. No one commands them, And somewhere close, maybe 3 islands over, someone is singing. Soft, off-key, comforting in the way cracked bowls and worn sandals can be. You close your eyes, but sleep doesn't come. Not yet. Not with the flower still blooming where the child left it, small, wilted, yellow, standing in the new corner of your garden like a crooked promise. You sit up. The wind returns, not strong, just a hush brushing the back of your neck like an old hand. You think of the idol again, of the bowl, of the old woman's voice, dry as papyrus. They buried their gods, but gods don't rot. You hadn't planned to visit her again. But the quiet won't stop asking. So, just before dawn, before the sky bleeds pale, you step into the boat. Again, the pole is colder than last time. Your fingers stick to it for a moment. You don't flinch. You drift. The garden disappears behind you, tucked into mist and morning silence. This time, the canals are emptier. Even the birds are late. You pass the same chinampas, but they look different now. More slouched, more still, as if the night has aged them. You reach her island just as the light begins to gather. The mist doesn't part. It waits. She's already awake, sitting in the same place, facing the same direction. As if she never moved, not once, since you left. You don't speak. Neither does she. You step onto the bank. The earth here is soft, but not weak. It holds you. That means something. She gestures toward the coals. A clay cup sits there. Steam curls out of it. Bitter, herbal, familiar. You take it. Drink. It's awful, but honest. She finally looks at you. You should have thrown it back. She says. You don't answer. She nods at your silence, maybe approves of it. Then, gently, you want to know where it came from. You nod. She reaches into a pouch, pulls out a thin strip of bark, folded 3 times, unfolds it. Words, no symbols, inked by hand, faint. You don't read glyphs well, but you know enough to see the curves of names, the dots of dates. She lays it in your palm. That god wasn't buried, she says. He was hidden. You trace the edge of the bark with your thumb. By whom? She shrugs. Mothers, farmers, people who knew better than to argue with stone temples and golden thrones. You hold the glyph sheet carefully. As if it might crumble. What did he mean to them? You ask. Nothing the priests would bless. She says, he was a god of sustaining, not conquering. He made things grow, not fall. You feel something strange in your chest. Not belief, not doubt. Recognition. She leans forward now, her voice slower. When the empire grew fat on war, the old gods grew quiet. But they didn't vanish. They went underground, into gardens, into hands, into the things people whispered to the corn before harvest. You look up. Her face is calm, the kind of calm that has teeth. You touched him. She says, that matters. You shake your head. I just found him. No, she says, you heard him. You don't understand, or maybe you do. Somewhere deeper than words go. You hand the bark back. She waves it away. Keep it. She says, the old ones don't care about ownership. You fold it, slip it into your belt. The wind shifts again. You hear the water lap at the banks. Hear it say something you almost grasp. She stands, slowly, as if rising from another century. Now go, she says. The sun is coming, and it's best not to be here when it arrives. You don't ask why. You push the boat back into the canal. The mist parts just enough. You paddle in silence. The glyphs press against your skin, warm, as if remembering your heat. Back at your garden, the flower still stands. Leaning, tired, but not fallen, you place the folded bark at the base of the maze. Bury it a finger deep. No prayers, just a whisper. And as you pat the earth closed again, you wonder what if the gods we buried are only sleeping, and waiting for someone to call them by their forgotten names. You wake before your eyes open, not from sound, not from light, from the weight of something, pressing, not on your chest, but inside it. A kind of fullness that feels like warning. When you finally lift your eyelids, the garden is still dark, no sun yet, just the dim, blue hour, that time when shadows don't belong to anything and silence has too much room to stretch. Your back aches. It always does now. The earth doesn't forgive easily, but it does forget. That's something. You sit up slowly. The woven mat beneath you has shifted in the night. Damp on one side. You were cold, but not enough to wake. You've learned how to sleep through discomfort. Hunger taught you that. Outside, the water laps against the stakes. Steady, soft, like an old animal licking its wounds. You step out into it barefoot. No reason for sandals. The ground is already wet. Might as well know what you're standing on. The soil feels colder than yesterday. Not just surface, chill deeper. The kind of cold that lives in roots. Your fingers graze the stalks as you pass maize first, then beans. You murmur nothing to them, just breathe. They listen anyway, and then you stop. Because something's missing, not a thing, a sound. The birds, even at this hour, one or two would cry, but there's nothing. Not even the rustle of wings. Your throat goes dry suddenly. You scan the sky, still, and then, a thud behind you, you turn slowly. There's a figure at the far edge of your island, cloaked, hooded, not moving. You wait. The breath in your chest thickens, but you don't call out. You've learned not to disturb the quiet unless it speaks to you first. The figure steps forward, slowly, deliberately. It's not the priest, not an official, not your neighbor. He stops 5 paces away. You see his face now, older than yours, worn, burned at the cheeks, eyes sharp but low, set as if they're always squinting through smoke. He carries nothing visible, just a pouch at his waist. You say nothing. He looks at the maize. You buried it. He says, not a question. You nod. You remember which one it was. He asks. You nod again. He glances down at the soil beneath your feet. I hope it doesn't grow. His voice is like gravel, but calm. A strange calm. The kind that smells like waiting. Who are you? You ask. He smiles, but not kindly. No one who belongs in your garden. You step forward once, then leave. He doesn't move. Instead, he kneels, places one hand on the earth, flat, bare, closes his eyes. The wind picks up, just slightly. Still warm, he says, but not for long. You watch him carefully. There's no weapon on him, no mark of rank. But something in your spine stays rigid. He stands. Be careful what you wake. He says, looking past you now. Then he turns and walks into the mist. You don't follow, not right away. Instead, you kneel where he did. Press your hand to the same patch of soil. It's warm still, but only just. You stay there a while. You don't know what you're listening for, but eventually you rise. You gather your tools. Check the edge of the chinampa. The repaired section holds. The reeds are tightening as they dry. The mud is dense now, breathing, but bound. The child hasn't returned. Neither has the song in the canals. You push your boat into the water and begin moving again, not toward the mangroves, not toward the priestly towers. You need something older. You head west. The western islands are fewer, more scattered. They say the wind here doesn't listen. That's probably true. You pass one island entirely overrun by birds' white feathers, sharp cries, droppings like cold stars. You don't stop. You pass another with a stone marker, a jaguar carved into obsidian. No name, just the shape. Then you reach it, the island of tools. That's what they call it. Isla de los Oídos, the ears. Not for hearing, for listening. It's not a place people live, but they visit. You step onto the soil. The ground is firm, lined with layered bark. The edges are braced with carved wood, each plank marked with patterns. Not letters, just echoes of hands that made things. In the center, there's a small fire pit. Cold now, beside it, a box. You know the rule. If you need something, take what you can carry. If you have something, leave what you no longer need. You kneel, open it. Inside a handful of wrapped seeds, a broken spindle, a bundle of dried tobacco, a string of obsidian beads, and something else. A scroll, not bark. Cloth, you lift it, unroll it. Symbols again, different this time, sharper, more angular. You don't recognize most, but one repeats, a shape, a face, a mask with empty eyes and a tongue of flame. You've seen it before, in the temple murals. Far from here, the god of fire, some say, others say of memory. You roll the cloth again. Slip it into your belt, beside the bark from before. You leave a bone comb in the box. It's old, but still useful. Just not to you. You step back into your canoe and drift again. The lake is quieter than ever. Even the wind forgets your name. You return to your garden by midday. There's someone waiting. Your neighbor. The one with the chilies, again. He doesn't speak right away, just stares at the repaired edge, then says softly, They were asking about you. You stiffen. Who? He shrugs. Not priests. Worse. You know what he means? Collectors, men who come from the towers in the east, not to punish, but to record, to document, to catalog. They smile while they take. They asked about the idol. Your neighbor said something's been disturbed. You look at your maze. It sways in the wind, barely. You feel the cloth scroll heavy at your side. Your neighbor notices. He nods once, grim. I wouldn't keep that here. You don't answer, because you're not sure you can. Instead, you walk the perimeter of your island again. This time slowly, looking for what's changed, looking for what's watching. The reeds murmur, the insects click. The birds finally return, a few, not many. When night falls again, you don't sleep. You light a small fire beside the maze. Not for warmth, for proof, for presence. You sit there, fingers laced, the scroll in your lap, and you unroll it. Again, this time you notice something else. Beneath the mask glyph, a line of dots. Not letters, not symbols, but a pattern. One you've seen before, in the garden. The way the maze was planted this season, unknowingly in rows of 3, curved like a crescent. You'd followed your mother's layout without questioning it. Now you see it matches the scroll exactly, not coincidence, a call. You close your eyes, the fire cracks, the lake breathes. You whisper nothing, but something hears you anyway, and in the faint glow of the coals, you wonder what if we've been farming answers this whole time, without knowing the questions. The fire has gone out, but the heat remains. It lingers in the ashes, beneath your knees, in the damp air that hasn't moved since last night. You don't remember when you fell asleep, but your back knows it was too long, and your neck confirms it was crooked. You sit up slowly. A reed is stuck in your hair. You leave it. The scroll lies beside the embers, unrolled, as if it had unfolded itself during the night. You stare at the ink, the same face, the same curves. That mask with empty eyes, flame tongue, and the silent scream. You remember the way your maze was planted, the accidental pattern, the curve that mirrors the glyph, the way the plants seem to lean not toward the sun, but toward some buried direction you don't understand. You fold the scroll again, slower this time, like you're tucking away something you're not ready to name. Then a sound, not a footstep, a breath. You turn. No one, but you know something changed. You can feel it. In the weight of the garden, the thickness of the air, something has arrived or left or shifted slightly inside the soil while you slept. You stand, walk the garden perimeter again, 3rd time this week. The ground near the maze is soft, not wet soft. Disturbed, you crouch, touch the earth. It's warm, that's wrong. The night was cold. It should be cooler than your skin, but here it pulses, barely. Like breath held just under the surface. You dig with your hands, slow, careful, no tools, no blade. The soil parts for your fingers like it expected you. You reach something hard, not wood, not stone. Clay, you draw it out, a small vessel, cracked at the lip, marked with symbols you don't know. But on the side, one mark is unmistakable, the flame-tongued face. Your pulse quickens. The pot is empty. Or no, wait, you tilt it, tap the base, a rattle. Inside something small, you crack off the broken lip, shake the contents gently into your hand. 3 kernels of maize, black, shiny as obsidian, warm to the touch. They smell faintly of smoke and rain. You stare at them. They stare back. You wrap them in cloth, not the scroll, another one, plain linen. You place the pot near the flower the child gave you. Let it sit there in the dirt like a message. You don't know who you're sending it to. You eat nothing that morning. The garden feels too full. The boat feels smaller than usual as you push off again. Your shoulders ache, the kind of ache that sits inside the joints like a secret. You stretch, but it stays. You don't head to the mangroves. You don't go west again either. You head toward the causeways, toward the city. Tenochtitlan rises like a dream made of stone and thunder. Towers stabbing into sky. Temples gleaming with lime, wash and firelight. The smell hits you before the shoreline incense, market spice, sweat and soot. You don't come here often, not because you're unwelcome, because you're unseen. People in the market walk past you like they walk past canals. Useful, background. You slip through alleys, past the vendors with woven mats of peppers and beans. Past the old woman who sells dried fish wrapped in banana leaf. Past the boy hawking amaranth cakes near the temple steps. You're not here to eat. You're here to find him. You reach the archive tower before midday. It's quiet. A priest in white robes sits outside, slicing paper from bark. He doesn't look up. You clear your throat, looking for the old scribe. You say, still slicing. He nods toward the rear. You thank him and step inside. The air shifts instantly colder. Smells of ink, dust, and forgotten years. The walls are lined with glyphs, hung scrolls, woven maps, the kind of knowledge no one outside the city ever touches. Because no one asks, you turn a corner and there he is, sitting cross-legged, back curved like a bow, hands black with ink. The old scribe, you don't know his name. You just know he used to live near the gardens, years ago. Before something no one says what drove him into the walls. He looks up, sees you, squints. You're not here to donate bark. He says. You shake your head. Glyphs. You say, pulling the cloth scroll from your belt. I need to know what they say. He doesn't reach for it. He just studies your face. You're not a priest. No, not a noble. No, you're not supposed to have that. You say nothing. He sighs. Sit. You do. He holds the scroll delicately, like it might sting. He unrolls it. The mask stares up at him. His eyebrows lift. Where did you find this? You hesitate. In the garden. You say. He gives you a look. Not angry. Just tired. They buried these. He murmurs. After the second fire. What fire? The one that took the archives. Not the buildings. The names. He leans closer. This is older than it looks. Copied from something that was already lost. He traces the mask with his finger. They called him the god of kindled mouths, one who speaks in warmth, a giver, not a taker, not a war god. You ask, no. He says, not even a god really, a witness. To what? He doesn't answer. He just begins copying the glyphs onto a fresh sheet. His brush is swift but gentle. The lines come easily to him, like they're returning. When he finishes, he rolls both scrolls, returns the old one to you. He keeps the copy. Why would someone plant maize in this pattern? You ask. He studies you again, because it's a prayer. You blink. He continues. This shape, the crescent, it mimics the breath of the earth. They believed planting this way allowed the crops to speak back. To what? He leans in to what's underneath. You feel your chest tighten. I didn't do it on purpose. You say, then maybe, he says, it wasn't you who did it. He hands you a folded glyph, just one word. Take this to the man who keeps the stone circle in the southwest corner of the causeway. He'll show you more. You thank him, bow slightly. He nods once, already lost in another scroll. You step back into the city. The heat feels wrong now, too loud. The people blur around you. Your hands keep brushing the scroll at your side. The black kernels rest against your hip like forgotten teeth. You find the man with the stone circle. He doesn't speak, just gestures you down. You sit. He draws in the dust with a stick. Shapes you don't know. Shapes you somehow recognize. He places a small stone in your palm, warm, then closes your fingers over it, and says finally, your garden is not the only one that breathes. You return home at dusk. Your maize is taller. The flower still stands, and now beside it something new has sprouted. Just a sprig. Barely a leaf, but you didn't plant it. Not this season. Not ever. You kneel beside it. Touch the soil, it's warm, still. You close your eyes and ask the earth nothing. But something answers anyway. In the shifting of the wind, in the sudden return of the birds, and in the whisper of the water against your garden's edge, you wonder what if the land we grew wasn't just ours, but watching us grow in return. That night, the moon does not rise, or maybe it does, and you simply don't look up. Your eyes stay on the sprig, the one you didn't plant. Its stem is pale, almost blue in the starlight, too soft for maize, too slim for squash. It shivers slightly when the wind moves not in fear, but like something learning to breathe, you sit beside it, palms pressed to the dirt. You've lost count of how long. The garden is silent except for the water. And even that tonight sounds like it's thinking, you should sleep. But sleep feels like a door that might not open again once closed. So you wait, watch. At some point, the sky shifts, not brighter. Not darker, just. Changed, you rise, check the maze, touch the reeds. Your hand lingers on the broken bamboo stake, still there, still split, still watching the edge where everything began unraveling. You almost feel safer now that something is growing again, even if it wasn't yours, especially because it wasn't yours. In the morning, you prepare offerings, not for gods, for memory, a handful of ground maize, a pinch of salt, a small clay figure you shaped when you were a child, half, forgotten in your storage mat. It has no arms. You don't remember if it ever did. You place all three beneath the sprig. Then you wait again. Midday comes, then goes, the sun heavy but distant, a heat that doesn't touch the skin, only the bones. That's how you know the weather is shifting, the kind of shift that makes old people stop in the middle of their sentence. That makes dogs bark at nothing and children refuse to nap. You paddle slowly toward the southern edge, not to the mangrove woman, not today. You're searching for the boy with the tattoos. He only shows up when he wants to. And today, apparently, he wants to. You find him near a ruined chinampa, half underwater, half blooming wild with flowers that smell like dust and bitter root. He's sitting on the edge, feet in the water. A turtle near his knee. He doesn't look at you. I saw the sprig. He says, you blink. How? He shrugs. It sees me too. You step onto the soft edge, sit beside him. I didn't plant it. I know, he says. That's why it grew. You look at him sideways. He's young, too young to speak like this, but his eyes are older than yours. He rolls a seed between his fingers, black, polished. Do you know what the old ones used to do when these grew where they weren't expected? He asks. You shake your head. They moved, he says, moved, left everything, took nothing but food and a gourd of water. They said it meant the land had spoken. You glance behind you toward your island in the distance. I just rebuilt it. He nods. So maybe it's not you who needs to move. You want to ask what that means, but he tosses the seed into the lake and stands. You should speak to the wind, he says, then walks across the shallow water like he knows every rock. You stay seated. Speak to the wind. What does that even mean? Still, when you return, the sprig has grown, not taller, wider. Its leaves are thicker now, furled around the stem like secrets. You don't touch it. Not yet. Instead, you walk the chinampa. Again. Your feet fall into the same indentations. The same routes your ancestors probably followed. Or didn't. You don't know. That's the problem with lineage. It rarely leaves a map. You crouch near the far edge, the oldest corner of the garden, the one where the reeds always rot first, where the insects nest, where the soil smells more like memory than earth. There's a small depression there. Round, shallow, it wasn't there yesterday. You press your fingers into it. They come back wet, you dig. The mud pots easily, too easily. Something was buried there, but it's gone. You glance around. No signs of digging, no footprints, no broken roots, just absence. You sit beside the hole. You don't remember sitting, but your legs are folded, your arms across your chest, your breath slow, and then, just as the wind begins to rise, you hear it. Not a voice, a sound, like cloth being wrung out beneath the lake. You stand. It stops. You step backward. The sprig trembles once, then stills. A chill creeps up your calves, clinging like soaked thread. And then, laughter, soft, not unkind, from across the canal. You turn. A girl stands at the edge of the water. Not the child with the flower, not anyone you know. Her hair is bound in 2 cords. Her tunic is torn at one shoulder. Her feet are muddy, but she doesn't seem to notice. Do you know what you're growing? She asks. You shake your head. She steps into the boat without permission. You don't stop her. She crouches beside the sprig. Doesn't touch it, just breathes, then looks at you. You're not the first to wake it. Your voice is quiet. What is it? She smiles, but it's a smile made of old grief, a memory that refused to stay buried. Then she points toward the far edge of the lake. "The mound," she says. "What mound?" She tilts her head. "You'll know when you feel it." She steps out of the boat, wades into the canal, disappears beneath the lilies like she was never there. You sit back in the canoe, hands on your knees, breathing. You don't move until dusk. Then you paddle, south again, but not to the mangroves, not to the ruined chinampas. Further, you follow the wind. It guides you with small signs. A trail of red feathers stuck to reeds, a broken gourd tied to a branch, a string of maize kernels left in a hollow log. Then you see it, the mound, not large, barely taller than the water, overgrown with moss and wild vines, but unmistakably shaped by hands, a rise in the land that does not belong. You pull the canoe ashore, step lightly. The soil is old here, older than words. The air smells of salt and time. You climb the mound. At the top, a flat circle of stone. In the center, an empty hole, shallow, smooth, edged, purposeful. You kneel, place your hand inside. It's warm, of course it is. You close your eyes. The wind moves through the trees. The water laps below, and something hums deep in the earth. Not song, not warning, invitation. You place one of the black maize kernels in the hole. Just one. It fits, exactly. You open your eyes. The sky is darker now. But the mound glows faintly, not light, memory. You press your palm to the stone, and in the back of your mind, a voice not yours asks, what if the garden was never meant to grow food, but to remember? You don't remember the journey back, only that the moon was watching this time, not high, not bright, just enough to mark the path in silver. Your hands moved by memory. The pole found the shallows. The boat drifted like it had somewhere it needed to be. And you tired but calm. The kind of calm that happens when fear grows too quiet to shout and becomes something else entirely. The sprig had grown again. In one day, 2 leaves had stretched open. They curl slightly at the tips now, wide and veined like wings. But it still casts no shadow. You sleep near it, not beside, near, like a guest. Wrapped in your shawl, breath slow, hands tucked under your ribs the way children sleep when they want to keep their dreams inside. Sometime in the dark, you hear footsteps, light, deliberate. You keep your eyes closed. Then the footsteps stop, right where the maze begins. You don't breathe, a moment, then 2, then a voice, quiet. "Male, I knew it would choose this garden." You open your eyes. He stands between stalks, a man with shoulders like bundled mats and a voice like woven reed. His face is painted down one side, not decorative, symbolic. You don't know the mark, but your body remembers it. He nods at the sprig. You didn't plant it. No, you wouldn't have known how. You sit up. What is it? He doesn't answer. He walks the edge of your chinampa, slow, dragging his fingers along the soil like reading with touch. "It hasn't bloomed since the fall of Tilate, Lolko," he says, "and even then it withered before it flowered. Your mouth is dry. You haven't spoken aloud in hours, maybe longer. Why now?" He crouches beside the sprig, doesn't touch it because the silence has lasted long enough. He looks at you then, really looks. You've kept the earth awake, that matters. You want to ask what that means, but he's already standing, already turning away. "Leave the rest of the kernels untouched," he says. Then, softer, "They know where to grow." He's gone before you can reply. You sit by the sprig until morning. The birds return first. Then the insects, then the warmth. You prepare water, pour it slowly into the base of the plant. It doesn't soak in right away, just sits on the surface, beating like glass. Then in a slow inhale, the soil drinks. Later, you walk the perimeter again. The child with the flower hasn't returned. The boat is damp with dew. Your hands are lined with new cuts from yesterday's work, though you don't remember working. You paddle out toward the western banks, where the water grows wider and the chinampas thin. You pass a fisherman asleep with his net still in the canal. You pass a woman singing to her squash, not words, just hums. You pass an old man cutting reeds with one tooth and no shirt. Then the stone rings. You didn't think they were real, but here they are, half submerged, covered in moss, each ring a perfect circle, wide enough for a canoe to pass through. 7 in total, aligned like stars, silent as bones. You guide the boat through the first. Nothing changes. The second, still nothing. But at the third, the wind shifts, not forward, downward, as if the air itself is being pulled into the water. You don't stop. By the seventh ring, the canal has narrowed. The lilies are thicker. The light is dimmer. You find a clearing, a patch of floating garden abandoned, but not forgotten. Weeds cover its corners. The trees bend low, as if listening. In the center, a stone basin. You step onto the chinampa. The soil here is different, heavy. Your steps leave prints that don't fill back in. The basin is full of water. Still reflective, you look in, at first, just your face, then not. The sprig growing, fast, blooming, then burning. You step back, blink. It's just water again. You sit, wait. Nothing happens. You dig in your belt. Pull out the second maize kernel, the one you didn't leave in the mound. You hold it above the basin, then drop it. The ripple is silent, but you feel it in your knees. The water begins to darken, not dirty. Deep, as if it's remembering. Shapes form beneath the surface. Hands, not yours, planting, not corn, but something darker, older, round seeds pressed into mud with thumbs wrapped in cloth. Then a voice. From nowhere, from inside the trees, do you still believe the land belongs to you? You don't speak, because the answer isn't yours to give. The water clears, the kernel is gone, the basin empty. You stand. The chinampa sways slightly, not from you, but from something deeper. You paddle home. The sky is flat, colorless, the sun buried behind thin cloud. Your island appears before you slowly, like a memory returning. The sprig has grown, now knee-high, the leaves wide, darkening, a center stem curling upward like a finger asking silence. You sleep again. This time you dream of fields that float across the sky, of maize with mouths, of idols with hands pressed to their faces in mourning. You wake with your fingers buried in the soil, and the sprig, it's glowing, faintly, like breath held in glass. You lean close. There's a sound. Not words, a heartbeat. You place your palm on the soil, feel it answer, and you wonder what if this garden was never meant to feed the body, but to remind the earth it's alive. You sit with your hand on the earth for what might be hours, or just long enough to forget what your name sounds like. The sprig pulses gently under your palm. Not a glow, not anymore, that passed, but a warmth, not heat. Presence. You lift your hand and press it to your chest. It's cooler than your skin. The sprig has grown again, though you didn't see it happen. It now stands at your waist. Its stalk has thickened, its leaves opened fully, not maize, not bean, not anything you've ever planted, not anything your mother ever sang over. And yet it feels familiar, like something you should have always known, if only you'd listened sooner. You rise. There's mud in your fingernails, and a faint smell of damp ash on your hands. Your sandals are gone. You don't remember removing them. The wind picks up, only for a second, a brush against your left cheek, like a whisper that forgot the words but remembered the direction. You walk the edge of the chinampa. Again, you look for change, look for signs, look for the child with the yellow flower, the girl with the torn tunic, the boy with the black seed. None of them return. You speak to no one, but the garden speaks to itself. A vine, overnight, has climbed one of your stakes, not one you'd tied, not one you'd meant to reuse. It reaches upward, not toward the sun, but toward the east, toward the temples you cannot see from here, toward the stone towers that count blood and calendar with equal appetite. You cut the vine, not in anger, not in fear, in curiosity. You hold it in your hand, soft, green, still reaching. You toss it gently into the canal. It floats. The fish don't touch it. You return to the sprig. A small bloom has appeared at its base, curled, tight, the size of your thumbnail. It is pale red. You do not know what that means. You only know you've never seen it in any of your seasons. And you've lived through 17 maize harvests and 3 famines, and the year the lake flooded all the way to the priest's ankles. So you know your plants. This is not one of them. You do not touch the bloom. You sit with it instead. By the 3rd hour, you begin to feel the heat again, not sun, Something beneath. Your spine tingles. The earth is breathing faster now. Not louder, not deeper, just faster. Like something is stirring in the roots. You stand, stretch, and then, without thinking, you speak aloud. Who remembers you? The question startles even you. It hangs in the air, heavy, ungreeted. There is no answer. Only the soft swish of water against woven reeds. You prepare a meal, though you're not hungry. Boiled beans, a handful of squash slices, a bite of dried fish. You set half beside the sprig. Offer it without words. You eat the rest slowly, without salt, sitting on the edge of your garden, watching the water forget you. That night, your dream returns, but different. You're not in the floating fields, you're beneath them. You see the underside of the chinampas, the roots dangling into black water, swaying like hair, stirring with things that should not have shape. You hear music, not flutes, not drums, breath, thousands of people breathing at once. You try to rise to surface, but the earth above you is heavy, the mats are too thick, the roots too tangled. Then something touches your shoulder. Gently, a hand cool and calloused, and a voice older than your name says, "We are the gardens." You wake with a cry in your throat, but no sound. The sprig is taller, now shoulder high. The bloom has opened. It is shaped like an eye, a closed eye. You do not touch it. You do not speak. Instead, you gather your things, your pole, a reed basket, a small knife. You paddle, north this time, past the market sounds, past the causeways, past the temples, past the carved jaguar stones and the shrine of the cloud god. You go further than you've ever gone, until the lake narrows and the fog thickens, and even the birds grow quiet. You find an island, unmarked, small, floating alone like a lost tooth. You step onto it. It sinks slightly under your weight. You kneel, dig with your bare hands. The soil is loose, dark, ancient. You bury the third maize kernel. Not as offering, as signal. You press it down deep, then place a stone on top. You wait. Minutes pass. Then the ground beneath you grows hot. You stagger back. The island shifts. A shape rises where the kernel went, not a sprig, not a plant. A mark in the soil, a spiral winding inward, exactly like the old glyphs. The ones on the cloth scroll, the ones you traced with your fingers weeks ago, the ones you now dream with your eyes open. You sit, cross-legged, hands on your knees. You close your eyes and listen to the roots, to the breath, to the memories stitched into the dirt like forgotten stories. And you hear it again, "We are the gardens." You open your eyes. The spiral is gone, but the heat remains, and you understand. Not everything planted is meant to grow. Some things are planted to wake. You return by dusk. Your chinampa is quiet. The sprig hasn't grown. But the bloom is now open, and the eye, it is looking at you. You kneel, lower your head, and you wonder what if the chinampas weren't just survival, but memory, and what if remembering has a cost. You do not sleep, not because you're afraid, because the sprig is watching. Its bloom the eye doesn't blink, doesn't shift, doesn't follow your movements, but it sees, you feel it, in your spine, in your ribs. As if your thoughts are no longer private. You sit on the far side of the chinampa, knees tucked into your chest, listening to the water murmur against the woven edges. The stars above are bright tonight, scattered like forgotten offerings spilled across obsidian. You don't look at them long. You keep looking back at the eye. A petal drops, you flinch, but nothing happens. Still, the petal doesn't fall to the ground. It floats just above the soil, caught in air like a held breath. You watch it hover, wait for it to land. It doesn't, so you leave it, and the sprig, and the garden, just for a while. You push the boat gently into the water, keeping to the canal's slow curves. There's no real destination. You just row past the sleeping fields, past the bent stakes and folded leaves, past the islands where others live, sleep, dream without knowing the soil beneath them remembers more than they do. The moon is full now. It lights the water like silver oil. You see your reflection ripple, not quite your face, something older in your eyes. You follow no path, and yet your hands guide the pole to a place you've never visited. Or maybe you have, long ago, before your name grew teeth. The canal narrows, reeds closing in. The air thickens, then you see it. An island with no crops, no tools, no signs of use, just stone, stacked and sunken. You step ashore. It creaks beneath your weight. The surface is covered in flat stones laid into the soil, a broken mosaic of symbols, glyphs, curved and straight, dotted and slashed, some missing, others half, buried. But one you recognize immediately, the spiral, the same that appeared when you planted the third kernel. The same shape etched into the scroll you carry always, folded into your belt like a second spine. You kneel, brush away dust, ash, tiny roots, you whisper, though you're not sure why. Maybe so the stones won't wake too fast. Maybe so they'll listen. Your fingers land on a glyph shaped like a mouth, wide and open, a tongue curling out. You press your palm flat against it. The air hums. The mosaic glows not brightly, but steady. You hear it again. Breath, not yours, a breath rising from the ground itself. Not air, memory, a voice follows. Not loud, a murmur in your bones. To remember is to plant fire. You pull your hand back. The light fades. You leave a stone behind, a simple one, from your own chinampa. No markings, just earth. You place it in the center of the spiral. Then turn. The boat hasn't drifted. It waits. You return home just as the sky shifts from black to ash. Blue. The birds are late again. Your garden is not. The sprig is taller, the bloom wider, the eye closed, but only now. You touch the soil beside it. It's hot again. Then you see them. Small roots not from the sprig, but beneath it, moving, not growing, reaching. They stretch outward, thin and pale, like fingers seeking something they've forgotten. One root curls toward the maze, another toward your sleeping mat. You sit, you stay, you don't interrupt, but you watch, and as the sun climbs the eastern edge of the lake, you begin to hum. Not a song you remember, but one the earth seems to know. The following day your neighbor comes, the one with the chilies. He doesn't greet you, just stops at the edge of your chinampa, hands folded in front of him, gaze fixed on the sprig. "That's not yours," he says. "No," you reply. He doesn't ask where it came from. He only says, "It's not the first time." You look up. He steps forward, carefully, 1 foot at a time, "When I was a boy." He says, "My mother told me about a bloom that watched her sleep. She never spoke of it again. But after that, she never planted in straight rows." You nod. He walks the length of the garden, stares at the roots. You know where they go. No, under the lake. You blink. What? He squats, touches the soil, closes his eyes. There's a map. He whispers, a living one, woven from the roots of every forgotten thing. You don't understand. Not yet, but something deep in your chest begins to ache. He stands, looks at you, and asks, "Have you seen the bloom in your dreams?" You nod. He breathes in, then leaves, says nothing more, doesn't look back. That night, you try to stay awake again, but the sprig is quiet, still, and so you sleep, and when you sleep, you fall, not downward, not sideways, inward. You fall into a tunnel made of vines and water, of bone and ash, of harvest chants and famine cries. You see faces, old, why, died, carved from time. You see hands planting seeds into skulls. You see flames wrapped in petals, and then you see yourself. But not here, not now. You're older. Your hands are cracked. Your back bowed. You are kneeling in a garden that is not this one, and the sprig is blooming beside you taller than any house. It is flowering eyes, dozens, all closed, except one. It opens, and you wake. Dawn, the bloom has begun to wither, but the eye is open again, and now there's another sprig, smaller, new, just behind the first. You stare at it, then at your hands, soil under the nails, blisters on the fingers. You remember nothing about planting it, and yet it is here. You laugh once, dry, quiet. Then you whisper to no one, "What are we growing?" And in the hush that follows, even the wind holds its breath. The second sprig is different. Thinner, paler, younger but not weaker. Its leaves are already longer than the first was at birth, but they curl inward like it's listening before it speaks. No bloom yet, no eye, just the promise of one. The first sprig, now waist-high, begins to lean toward the younger one. Like a mentor or a warning, you walk around both, once, then again, looking for patterns in the roots, in the way they touch the soil. In the way they avoid each other or don't. Nothing obvious, but the air feels thicker. You press your hands to the ground, warm again, not pulsing, glowing. You don't know how you can feel it, but you do. Not with your fingers, with your spine. The garden is not just alive, it's aware. You step back. Your heel brushes something soft, you turn. The yellow flower, the same one the child gave you, still standing. Still unchanged, except, now at its base, a small cluster of black seeds. Too small to be maize. You crouch. They glisten like wet obsidian. Sharp at the edges. You don't touch them. But something in you shifts. Something ancestral. Something wordless and wide-eyed. You speak aloud. Am I the gardener, or the garden? Your voice startles the birds. They scatter. You sit in the dirt, arms wrapped around your knees. Wait, no answers. Only wind. Only water. Only roots. That evening, your neighbor returns. He doesn't ask. He steps onto your chinampa like he's been invited. Maybe he has. He holds something. A basket. Covered with woven cloth. He sits beside you, places it between you both, and uncovers it. Inside, dried petals. Red, orange, pale white. All wilted. All carefully arranged. You recognize some. Others not at all. I thought they were gone. He says. You don't respond. He picks one a brittle red blossom and holds it up. My sister buried these before the rains one year. Said they'd protect the harvest. You nod. She died that winter. You look at the petals again. They're not offerings. They're reminders. He reaches into the basket, pulls out a small stone, not carved, just flat, burnished smooth with years of holding. She said, he continues, there's a kind of seed only grief can grow. He places the stone gently near the second sprig. You don't ask permission, neither does he. He stands. Keep the rest. He says. And leaves. You plant one petal beside the yellow flower. Just one. It shrivels instantly, but the seeds beneath it shift. You plant another beside the second sprig. This time, nothing happens. Or maybe it does, you just can't feel it yet. The sprig doesn't move, but the wind does. It blows from the lake, not the hills. Strange, the breeze brushes across your cheeks, carries something with it. A smell, salt, and clay, and something burning. You squint toward the far side of the water. Smoke, thin gray, from an island you don't know, or didn't know. Now you do, the one they whisper about during planting season, the silent island, no birds. No animals, no crops, only wind. You don't want to go. You go anyway. The canal narrows, then widens again, like a throat clearing. You pass other chinampas, merged, abandoned, broken, some with skeletal corn still standing. Others fully return to water. The island appears without warning. It doesn't rise. It simply refuses to sink. No plants, no huts, just stone, flat, bleached, cracked. You step ashore. Everything is silent. Even your breath feels like a trespass. In the center, a bowl, carved from volcanic rock. Empty, no scorch marks, but the smell, still here. You kneel beside it. Run your fingers along the rim. Symbols. Faint, one matches the glyph in your folded cloth scroll, the one you keep pressed against your hip. You unroll the scroll, match the lines. Yes, this is the place. You whisper, not to be heard, to be felt. The bowl responds, not with light, with weight. Suddenly, your palms feel heavy, your lungs thick. The bowl is pulling something from you, a memory, a name you don't know. You pull your hands away, stand. The island holds its silence. You leave behind one of the petals. Just place it in the bowl, let it speak for you. Then you return to the boat. But you're not the same shape you were when you arrived. Back home, the second sprig is blooming. You didn't expect it so soon. The eye is smaller than the first, but wider open. You sit between the two, your knees to your chest. You stare at them, then you blink. And for the briefest second, you see a third. Not a sprig, a shape, a person, standing among the maize, watching you. You blink again, gone. But the wind shifts again, now from below. You lay your palms flat on the soil. It's breathing, slow, deep, rhythmic, a heart the size of a valley. You say nothing. You let it breathe. You close your eyes and wonder what if we're not growing plants, but memories waiting for bodies. There are two eyes now, and they do not sleep. The blooms remain open long into the night, silent, unblinking, not watching you exactly, just watching. The garden feels more crowded, though nothing has grown taller. Even the maze is still, as if holding its breath. You lie on your back beside the water, arms crossed over your chest, spine curved gently by the uneven mat of reeds. You've always slept on the ground. But tonight the earth feels different beneath you, not solid, not quiet. It's humming again, low, faint, like a song you don't know the words to, but somehow recognize. You don't sleep. Instead, you count the stars. Not aloud, just softly in the back of your eyes. Then you hear it, not a voice, a footstep, but not from the canal, from within the chinampa. You sit up slowly. The blooms are still open, still facing away, still looking towards something you cannot see. Then you feel the wind, but it doesn't come from any direction. It rises from the ground. You press your palms into the dirt, warm, breathing. You whisper, "Are you awake?" And this time the earth answers. Not with words, but with movement. A small root pushes up beside your hand, pale, thin, trembling slightly. It brushes your skin, and then a voice, but not from outside, from inside you. You are the echo, not the seed. You stand so fast the air leaves your lungs. The voice fades. You're alone again, but the root remains, curled like a question mark in the soil. You paddle west at dawn, past the sleeping chinampas, past the old tower that leans slightly eastward every year, past the woman who sings to her beans. No destination. Your hands guide the pole, and the lake decides. Eventually, the water carries you to a narrow channel, one you don't remember ever taking. It's overgrown, vines arched above like ribs. The light here is green, filtered, quiet, then a dock, half rotted. You moor the boat and step onto the bank. The ground is dry, unusual. There hasn't been dryness in months, but this place feels preserved. Held, a small hut stands at the edge, roof caved on one side. You approach. There's no door. Inside, the smell of crushed leaves, burnt offerings, and smoke. No fire, but the scent lingers like an echo. A clay bowl sits in the center. It's full of eyes, not real, carved ones, hundreds, all different sizes, some painted, some hollow, some etched with glyphs. All of them turned upward. You kneel. Place one of the black maize kernels at the center. Nothing happens. You wait. Still nothing. Then you rise, and behind you a voice. They've been waiting for you. You don't turn, you say, "I didn't know I was coming." The voice hums. That's the only way to arrive. You turn slowly. A woman older than stone, hair coiled in ropes, eyes the color of wet bark. She wears a cloak of woven reeds and petals, some alive, some dead. She steps inside, looks at the bowl of eyes. This is the memory of those who chose to see. You ask, "See what?" She shrugs. What grows beneath? You reach for one of the carved eyes. She doesn't stop you. It's heavier than you expect. Cold. You hold it to your own eye, nothing, but when you lower it, the hut is gone. You are kneeling in a field. The lake is gone. The chinampa's not yet woven. The earth is cracked, dry, open, and people are digging, not with tools, with hands. They pull roots from the ground, not plants, teeth, bones, glyphs carved into stone. They speak no words, but they hum, that same song, the one that came from your garden floor. Then the vision fades. You are in the hut again. The woman is gone. You place the carved eye back in the bowl. And leave. Back home, a third sprig has grown, smaller than the others, but already blooming. Its eye is closed. You sit between all three. They do not move, but they surround you now. You press your palms to the earth again. This time no hum, no heat, only stillness. Then a whisper from under your fingernails. Dig. You hesitate, then you do. Just below the first sprig the soil gives easily. Your fingers find something. Not stone, not clay, cloth. You pull it out. A fragment of fabric, embroidered with faded threads. No pattern, just 3 stitched dots in a triangle. Beneath them, a spiral, crude but deliberate. You place it on your lap. It's damp, still warm. You whisper again, "Who buried this?" No answer. You press it back into the ground, cover it with care, and say, "I remember you." That night, the second bloom opens wider. Its eye glows faintly. The wind doesn't move, but you hear footsteps, this time from the water, a boat. You rise, your neighbor. He doesn't moor, just floats past. Says only one thing. They're starting to speak again. Then he's gone. Back into the dark. You sit in the garden until your eyes burn. You do not sleep. You do not move, and slowly, beneath the earth, the roots keep reaching. The eyes keep watching. The lake holds its breath. And you wonder what if these blooms aren't eyes at all, but mouths waiting for the right question. The fourth sprig doesn't wait for morning. It appears in the darkness, no warning, no seed, no sound. You wake because your breath has stopped. Not for long, just enough. You sit up. The night is quiet. The mat beneath you is wet with sweat, though the air is cold. The wind doesn't stir. Even the reeds are still. You crawl forward slowly. The sprigs are there, 3 standing, 1 new. The fourth is shorter, darker. Its stem a shade deeper than night. Its leaves small, folded tightly inward, as though guarding something not yet meant to be seen. But this one is different. It's facing you. You blink. You've stopped being surprised. You just stare back, and then its leaves shudder once, just once, like a sigh or a decision. You whisper, "What do you want?" The sprig doesn't answer, but the earth does. It grows warm, not beneath your hands this time, beneath your chest. Your heartbeat sinks with something low and slow, a rhythm you didn't start. Your skin tingles, your eyes blur, and suddenly, just for a moment, you see the chinampa from above. You a figure kneeling among green limbs and dark blossoms. The reeds forming circles around you. The canal glimmering like obsidian vein. And something beneath something, not water. Structure, not temple, not natural. You fall forward onto your hands. The vision vanishes. You taste dirt and silence. You don't eat the next morning. Food feels distant, the kind of act that belongs to a different life. Instead, you tend to the maze. Touch each stalk gently, as if reassuring them. The blooms are silent now, all 4, all eyes open, none blinking. You try not to wonder what they see. You paddle out at midday. The boat feels heavier. Your pole drags. The water is thick with silt, warm near the surface, cold just below. You pass a girl crying on the bank of a wilted chinampa. You offer no words. You only nod. She nods back. That's enough. You pass a shrine half. Sunken in the canal, a face carved into the stone. Its features worn by water and indifference. Its eyes are the same shape as your blooms. You keep rowing until the canal ends, where the lake opens into something too wide to name. Here, the wind moves in circles. Here, no chinampas float. Just one island, small, flat, covered in bone. You knew it was there, you just didn't want to admit it. You step ashore, it doesn't sink, doesn't creak, doesn't move at all. You walk carefully. The bones are old, picked clean, no names, no markers. Just presence in the center, a pit. A fire once burned there, long ago. The ash still carries heat and scent. You kneel, not in reverence, in memory. You don't know whose. You press your palms to the ground. It does not hum, it waits. Then you take one of the seeds, the black maize kernels, the last one. You drop it into the pit, and you wait. Minutes pass, then hours, the sun lowers, the shadows stretch. Still nothing, until you rise, turn away, and hear a sound behind you. A crack, not stone, soil. You spin around, the seed has split. A sprig rises, fast, too fast, in seconds. It's taller than your waist. No leaves, just a single black bloom. Shut tight. You walk toward it, reach out. But before you touch it, the wind stops entirely, and you hear something, not from above, not from around, from below. A voice, a whisper, no more forgetting. You step back. The bloom pulses, once, then again. You return to your canoe. You do not look back. That night, your neighbor comes again. He doesn't speak at first, just sits, places something beside you, a scroll, but not of bark, of cloth, worn, stained hand, dyed, unfurls it. You recognize the glyphs now, a spiral, a bloom, a jawbone. He points, this one, he says, means mouths of the buried. You trace it with your fingertip. It's not ink, it's blood, dry, old, but unmistakable. You whisper, what did they plant here? He answers softly, not food. Then he says nothing else, just watches the blooms. Then, just as he stands to leave, he says, they're not waiting for harvest. They are the harvest. Then he's gone. You sleep beside the fourth sprig. This time you dream of water that isn't water, black, still, floating in it hundreds of blooms, eyes closed, all drifting in circles, above them people bending over the surface, whispering. Then one by one the eyes begin to open, and everything else fades. You wake. The fourth bloom is taller, still facing you, still watching. You sit and whisper, "How long have you been trying to speak?" And in the silence, for the first time, you feel something like an answer, but not a word, a memory of hands digging, planting not crops but stories, layered in mud, fed with silence and watered with time. And you wonder what if these gardens were never made for us, but by something we've forgotten, trying to remember itself. The wind carries no breath tonight. It moves. Yes, you see it ripple the surface of the canal, nudge the hanging moss, whisper through the maze, but it's hollow, as if it passes through you without touching anything inside. You sit with your arms wrapped around your legs. The four sprigs rise in a crooked line behind you, facing in different directions now, north, south, east, west, like they're watching the edges of the world. Or guarding them, their eyes remain open. The newest bloom, the black one, doesn't shimmer or pulse. It just stares into the dirt, unmoving, and somehow that's worse. You've stopped asking questions out loud. It doesn't change anything. The garden doesn't answer with words. It answers with weight, with silence, with time. Your fingers are stained earth. Dark root. Burned, your nails sharp with sediment. You can't remember the last day you washed your hands. But you remember the last dream, and in it, the eyes closed, all of them, at once. You wake before they opened again. At dawn, the canal is unusually busy, boats drifting from one chinampa to the next, slow and crooked like the people guiding them forgot what they came for. Your neighbor is one of them, but he doesn't approach you. He only passes by, basket full of nothing, eyes half closed, lips moving like he's trying to recite something he can't remember. You don't wave. You kneel by the fourth sprig. The soil around it is cracked slightly, not dry pushed apart, as if something below it is expanding. You press your palm flat. The warmth is back. So is the pulse. Slower now. Deeper, like it's come from farther away. You lie down beside the plant. The earth is firmer than before, more solid, as if it's learned to bear its own weight again. You rest your ear against it, and hear nothing. Which means something, because for days now, the chinampa has whispered, and now it's holding its breath. You don't eat that day. Instead, you take the small woven pouch from your basket, the one your mother gave you with the charred maize she said came from the fire before you were born. You'd always kept it as a charm, but now you don't know if it was meant to protect you or to warn you. You open it. The kernels are blackened, shriveled, light. But when you hold them to the air near the fourth bloom, they grow warm. One of them cracks in your hand. It doesn't break. It just opens. Inside, a single thread of red root. Tiny, alive, you bury it without thinking near the third sprig. A gesture, not a plan. Then you stand. And you walk into the canal, not far, just knee deep. The mud pulls at your calves. You close your eyes. Let your body sway and ask the lake, "If I forget you, will you forgive me?" The ripples answer. Not yes, not no, just motion, just presence. That night, the fifth sprig appears. It's the smallest yet, barely taller than your ankle. It grows at the very edge of the chinampa, close to the boat, as if it's considering escape. This one doesn't bloom, it breathes. You see it each time you inhale. The stem swells slightly, then settles. Like it's mimicking your rhythm. You crouch beside it. Speak softly. I see you. Its leaf unfurls just a little, and stays that way. At midnight you hear them, not footsteps, voices far across the water, low, chanting, broken, not a song more, like a remembering. You step into your boat, let it drift, no paddle. No plan, the current guides you. The moon is a thin sliver now, barely enough to cast a glow. You pass 5 chinampas, all abandoned, then a 6th. This one burns, slowly, not flames glow. A soft orange light rising from beneath the soil like warmth being exhaled. You drift closer. A figure stands in the center, bent still. You call out nothing. Then a whisper from below the boat, "We are the ones they planted." You grip the side. The water shivers around you. You don't speak again. Just watch. The figure raises a hand, points not at you, at the sky. You look up. A single star flickers, then vanishes. When you look back down, the figure is gone. So is the light. So is the heat. Only your breath remains, and the lake's silence. You return at dawn. The fifth sprig has bloomed, not with an eye, but with a mouth, small, open, not speaking, but ready. You sit beside it and say, I remember the first garden I ever planted. You wait, no answer. Then you say, I remember the last thing I ever forgot. And still no answer, but the bloom tilts just slightly toward you. And the air shifts, not the wind, the air, the breath between things. You feel it against your teeth, behind your eyes, between your fingers, like a message you can't quite hear. You close your eyes and wonder, what if we were never meant to plant for survival, but to pass something on the soil could not carry alone? By morning, the fifth bloom has closed its mouth, not shut resting. You crouch near it, watching the curled lip of the petal pulse faintly. It moves with your breath, still, the connection hasn't faded. If anything, it's grown deeper. You sit back, bare feet pressed into the woven reeds of the chinampa, arms resting loosely on your knees. There's a pressure behind your eyes, the kind that doesn't lead to tears, the kind that means remembering something you haven't lived yet. The other four blooms are steady, watching, listening, rooted. They face different directions, one toward the maze, another toward the mountains, the third east toward Tenochtitlan, and the fourth downward, as though it remembers what lies beneath. You rise. Look toward the lake. There is no wind, not today. Even the birds have grown quieter, not absent, just solemn, like mourners who have forgotten the name of the one they grieve. You row without thought. Hands automatic, movements small, controlled. You let the boat lead, south again, not to the bones, not to the fire island. You drift toward a cluster of half drowned trees you've always avoided. Their roots snake into the water like arms reaching back for something they let go too soon. When you arrive, the boat stalls, not from weeds, from will. You step out. The water here is cold, colder than before. The silt hugs your ankles. There is no ground, only roots and memory. You let yourself sink slightly, then find footing. It's not firm, but it holds. You look around. This isn't a chinampa. This is something older. Not a place, a wound. You can feel it, the weight, the forgetting. You kneel into the mud, lower your hands. Let them drift downward, then your fingers touch something. Soft, smooth, not a stone, a pot, buried whole. You dig around it slowly. The earth doesn't resist. It knows, it allows. You lift the pot out. It's sealed with wax and ash. You don't open it, not yet. You carry it back to your canoe, seat it gently at your feet, and paddle home without looking back. The garden is not the same. Something's shifted. Not in the plants, in the space between them. It feels tighter, closer, like the chinampa has exhaled and held the air in. You place the sealed pot beside the fifth sprig. The bloom shivers, not fear. Recognition, you sit, and for the first time in days you speak aloud, I found something. The fifth bloom doesn't respond, but the second one, the eye that faces the east, closes, and then opens again. As if acknowledging you, you touch the pot. It's warm now. The seal begins to crack. You didn't do anything. It does this on its own. A fine hiss escapes from beneath the wax, not smoke, not steam, breath. Inside, not maze, not dirt, not bones, but petals, preserved, so many, red, blue, yellowed with time, at the center a shard of obsidian, thin, sharp, etched with a spiral. You lift it out. It's heavier than stone should be. It hums softly against your palm. You look to the blooms. One of them, the third, has turned slightly toward you. You kneel beside it. Press the shard into the dirt. The earth accepts it. The root beneath curls upward, not around the shard, through it. Threading itself gently into the groove of the spiral. You feel it, a pulse, in your knees, in your spine, in the marrow of your memory, then a vision, brief, a hand, covered in calluses, planting a shard just like this, hundreds of years ago. Whispering, let them know we were not just hungry. You blink. It's gone. The wind returns. Just a breath. But it carries a smell you haven't felt since childhood, clay warmed by sun, crushed petals, corn boiling slowly over flame. And under it all something deeper. like smoke from a prayer that never burned fully. That night, you sleep outside your mat, under the stars. The blooms surround you in a loose ring, their presence no longer unsettling, just necessary, like walls that were always meant to protect, not trap. In your dream, the chinampa is speaking, not with sound, with images, children weaving reeds into small circles, mothers whispering over seeds, fathers burying teeth beside corn, and then fire and silence, and roots growing sideways, not up, not toward the sun, but toward each other, creating a net, a memory, a garden meant to bind, not feed. You wake with your hand pressed to the 5th sprig's bloom. Its mouth has opened again, but now it whispers, only one word, but it echoes down into your chest like thunder. Remember, you rise. Boil water, drop in a kernel of ash, maize, watch it float, then sink. You don't eat. You pour the water into the base of the bloom, it sizzles, and then a new crack appears in the earth. Just to the left of the 5th sprig. Small, barely visible. You kneel, dig carefully. Another shard. This one smoother, no glyph. But when you hold it to the light, it reflects a face, not yours. An elder, with eyes like river stone and lips pressed tightly, as if keeping a secret too large to voice. You bury the shard again. Say nothing. The earth doesn't want your words. It wants your knowing. By nightfall, the 6th sprig has grown, tiny, barely more than a bud. It blooms before it finishes rising. No eye, no mouth, a hand, a single petal shaped unmistakably like a hand, curled slightly upward, palm open, reaching. You place your own palm against it. It is warm, and it presses back, and you wonder what if these gardens were never planted to grow, but to hold the shape of the ones who came before us. The 6th bloom holds your hand, not like a person would. There's no grip, no pressure, just presence, warm, soft light, like resting your fingers in breath. You sit there in the dark, palm against petal, until your arm aches. And still, you don't pull away, because some part of you believes that if you let go you might forget. The other 5 blooms don't move, but they feel closer. The air thickens around them, not unpleasant. Just heavy, like the garden is becoming full, not of things of meaning. You finally draw your hand back. The bloom doesn't close, it stays, palm open. A silent question. You whisper, is this a remembering, or a warning? The bloom does not answer, but the wind does. It stirs suddenly, low across the reeds, lifting a few petals into the air. They drift like ash or messages. The next morning, your feet are already dirty before you stand. The earth clings tighter now. Not mud, not dust, something between the two. When you step, it knows. You cook nothing. You're not hungry, or maybe you've forgotten what hunger is supposed to feel like. Instead, you gather your tools. Not for planting, not for building, just for being ready. A dull obsidian blade, a bundle of cloth, the small, cracked vessel from your mother, still holding the final 3 kernels of burned maize. You step into your canoe, and the lake for the first time doesn't resist. It carries you like a body it once lost and now recognizes. You drift for an hour or a season. It doesn't matter. Time folds here. The light above you shifts softly between morning and dusk. The water below reflects nothing, as though refusing to participate. You see another island, small, flat, not natural, a platform, stone, overgrown in parts, but symmetrical. As you approach, your skin tingles, the way it does just before a storm breaks. You step ashore. There is no sound. Even your breath feels distant. At the center, a basin, not carved, grown, stone shaped by wind, by waiting, by wear. Inside dust, you kneel, place the vessel down, pour the 3 kernels into your hand. They rest in your palm like teeth from something ancient. You place one in the basin, nothing, then the second. Still nothing. You hesitate with the third, then whisper, this isn't for remembering, it's for release. You drop it. The dust stirs, not from wind, from below. A soft pulse, the kind you've only felt beneath the chinampa. The kind that means something else is breathing. The dust begins to move. Shapes rise, not fully, just suggestions, faces, hands, roots curling into mouths, a sprig, a bloom, an eye, all drawn in motionless air. Then it collapses, gone. The kernels remain unchanged, but your palm is bleeding, thin line. You don't know when it happened. You leave the blood on the stone and walk away. When you return, the garden has shifted again. You don't notice it right away, but the moment your feet touch your chinampa, you feel it. Not wind, not vibration. Witness, the blooms have turned toward each other, except the hand. That one still reaches upward. You crouch, the soil is warm, the roots are entwining. You didn't plant them close. They've moved slowly, silently, toward a center. You take a stick and trace a circle around them, then a second, a spiral. They follow it, grow into it. You whisper, "You've always known." And the fifth bloom, the mouth opens again. A single sound escapes, not word, not song, a low exhale, as if agreeing, or remembering something painful. That night you don't dream, you just see colors, red, black, brown, the color of the lake when blood mixes with silt, the color of heat that never leaves, the color of grief that forgets its grief and becomes habit. You wake before the sky, the chinampa is glowing, not bright, just softly, like moss under moonlight. You walk to the edge, kneel, place your hand into the water and wait. Your reflection doesn't appear. Instead a face, eyes like seeds, skin like carved bark, lips unmoving, but a voice, clear and full, emerges. Do not bury what was never dead. You pull your hand back, the water stills, the sky brightens. And the sixth bloom is gone. Only a handprint in the soil remains, yours, but deeper, older, and you wonder what if these blooms aren't just memory, but the bodies of memory itself, roots given form, so forgetting, has no place left to grow. The sixth bloom is gone, but not lost. Its shape remains pressed into the soil like the soft echo of a vanished breath. The outline of the hand, petal lingers in the dirt, fingers slightly curled, palm turned upward. It isn't absence, it's release. You crouch beside it, fingertip tracing the edge. The soil feels warmer here, and softer. Not just mud memory made tangible, something pressed down, buried so deeply that its forgetting had weight. Now surfaced, the other 5 blooms remain, watching, waiting, rooted. You speak to none of them. You speak only to the hollow space where the sixth stood. A whisper, "I saw you." Then you sit, quiet, still, and the wind answers. It blows from the west today. It brings with it dry, arid taste of smoke without fire. You stand. Walk the edge of your chinampa. Feel the reeds sway gently beneath your feet. You pass the maze without touching it. It no longer seems to need you, or maybe it never did. You reach the boat. This time you paddle east, toward the sun, toward the city, not to reach it, to remember it. Tenochtitlan shimmers in the distance, not from heat, from presence. The great temples rise like teeth into the sky, each tier a prayer carved in stone. The causeways stretch like arms across the lake, veins feeding a heart of empire. But you do not dock. You drift along the edge. Let the sound reach you slowly. Footsteps on stone, water ladled from jars. A child crying for sweetened corn. The city forgets you, but you do not forget it. You pass the market where your mother once bought you honey in a calabash gourd. You pass the shrine where your brother tied a red cord for luck. You pass the steps where you once watched feathers dance for a god whose name you no longer say. And then, quietly, you turn back toward your garden, your memory, your wound. The boat is heavier returning. You've brought nothing back, except dust on your sandals, and a name in your mouth you haven't spoken in years. You say it once aloud. It doesn't echo, but it lands, somewhere deep in the roots. You step onto the chinampa just as the sun leans west. The 5th bloom, the mouth is closed. The 4th, the dark bloom, has lowered its head. Only the eye blooms remain open, and then you see it. A line, thin, winding, carved into the soil, looping between the roots. A spiral, but larger now, wider than before. It stretches around all 5 plants. You didn't make it. It made itself, or maybe. It was always there, and you just weren't ready to see it. That night, no one visits. Not your neighbor, not the wind, not even your dreams, only silence. You lie with your cheek against the ground. staring sideways at the base of the second sprig, the eastern eye. The soil there is cracked slightly now, drying around the roots, but the roots are still growing. Sideways, under each other, toward the spiral, the stars above are few tonight, most hidden behind a thin veil of cloud, but one glows clearly, directly overhead. It doesn't twinkle, it watches. At dawn, a sound wakes you. By tearing, not fabric, not wood, soil, you crawl to the center of the spiral. A small mound has risen overnight. You dig gently, carefully. Your fingers strike something soft, then firm. You lift it. A bundle wrapped in reed matting, still damp. You place it on your lap. Unwrap it slowly. Inside, a handful of dried flowers, red, gold, and black, wrapped around a single object, a jawbone, small, child-sized, etched with tiny lines, spirals, dots, and glyphs too faded to read. You hold it in your hands, and suddenly your breath isn't yours. It's deeper, older. It comes with a memory not from your mind. A child planting something forbidden, something sacred, something remembered, and then buried, to keep it safe, or to keep others safe from it. You rewrap the bundle, bury it again, but deeper this time, with care, with presence, with grief. That evening, a sixth sprig rises again, but not where the hand once grew. This one emerges at the very center of the spiral, slow, tall, straight. Its bloom is closed, but you already know it isn't an eye, or a mouth, or a hand. It's a heart, still forming, still gathering, still deciding whether to open. You kneel before it, not praying, not hoping, just being. The air smells of ash and maize. A wind moves across the lake. And from somewhere behind you, a voice so soft it barely shapes words says, "We are not what was forgotten. We are what remembered itself." You don't turn around, you don't need to, you already know who said it. And you wonder what if the land never needed farmers at all, only witnesses willing to kneel when it remembered who it used to be. You stay kneeling beside the sixth sprig until the sky forgets what color to be. Twilight curls around you like cool cloth, the kind left damp by an evening rain, or grief that doesn't end loudly. The sprig hasn't moved, but the ground has changed, not visibly, just. In feeling, the soil doesn't yield as easily beneath your knees. It pushes back gently, like breath exhaled through ribs, like memory resisting being buried again. You run a hand over the bloom, still closed, still pulsing, still deciding. It doesn't need you, but you stay anyway. That too is part of tending. By morning, the first bloom has wilted. The western eye, its petals curled inward like a fist, its stem bowed like a tired neck. You kneel beside it, touch it once, it doesn't pulse, but it's not dead, just done. You leave it be, let it return to the earth. Some things are not meant to last. Some are only meant to open, then close, and become part of the next thing. You pass the day in stillness. No planting, no gathering, no cooking, no fire. Your chainampa is no longer a garden. It is a body. You treat it like one. Wash its edges with water drawn from the canal. Pull weeds not because they threaten, but because they interrupt. Smooth the spiral's line with your thumb. Trace it until your finger knows the curve without looking. And when the sun finally lowers itself behind the lake, you lie in the very center. The sixth sprig's bloom rises beside your cheek, still closed, still waiting. Your dream is different this time, not fire, not water, not chanting voices or ash drifting like snow. Just one sound, a heartbeat, louder than anything else, slower than your own. Each pulse is a question, each silence an answer, and in between them you feel something. Soil remembering what it meant to feed something besides hunger. You wake before dawn. The chainampa is glowing again, but only faintly, and only at the spiral's center. You rise, step barefoot into the cool dirt. The sixth bloom has begun to open, not all at once. Just one petal. It doesn't look like a heart. It looks like a wound, red at the base, black at the edge, veined like something once broken and now healed crookedly. You do not touch it. You just say, "I'm still here." The bloom doesn't move. But the sprigs rustle together just once. A sound like silk being folded, or a grave being covered. You sit again, Watch and wait. At noon, your neighbor comes, but not alone. 3 others are with him. You know their faces, but not their stories. They step lightly onto the edge of your garden. No greetings, just eyes, not on you, on the spiral and the bloom. He places a bundle at your feet, wrapped in corn husks, tied with string. You don't ask what's inside. He doesn't explain. The others kneel. You do too. And together in silence you wait. The wind rises, circles, lifts dust, and when it stills again, the 6th bloom has fully opened. It is not an eye, not a mouth, not a hand, not even a heart. It is a mirror, not glass, just shape. You see yourself in it, but not as you are, as you were, bent, younger, scared, hopeful, and then as someone else. A child whose name was never written. A mother who planted corn and grief at the same time. A man who carved spirals into jawbones because ink wasn't enough. A whisper no one remembered to listen for until now. You reach out, your palm hovers over the bloom. The others do too. 5 hands, all still. Then gently you lower yours. And this time, the bloom does not press back. It accepts, softly, without fanfare. Like rain, like memory, like forgiveness, that night the sky is full of stars, and the Chainampa is full of quiet. You walk the spiral one last time, barefoot, bare, skinned, bare, hearted. You whisper names into the soil. Some are yours, some are not. Some never belonged to anyone, but now they are planted. You lie beside the 6th bloom, eyes wide, heart slow, hands open, and you wonder what if the garden didn't survive because we worked it, but because we let it remember what it was before we ever asked it to feed us. The 6th bloom is still open when morning arrives. Its petals have not withered. Its stem hasn't sagged. It doesn't glow. It doesn't speak. It just is, a mirror still, but now the reflection is different. You don't see a child or a wound or a myth. You see a garden, not this one, older, wider, 1,000 arms of earth stretching into a lake that hadn't yet learned how to forget. And there, among the old maize, float the same shapes, spirals, sprigs, hands. It doesn't surprise you anymore. It just steadies you. The truth isn't loud. It's rooted. The others leave before noon. They don't say goodbye. But they each brush their fingers against the soil once, and they leave small things, a thread, a stone, a single white feather. You don't ask. The Chainampa knows what to do with offerings. It always has. The maize doesn't need tending. It grows straight now. No lean, no sickness. The earth smells like warmth, like sweat, like clay that remembers hands. You sit by the edge of the water and soak your feet. Your sandals sit forgotten nearby. You hum, not a tune, a rhythm, a thing your grandmother used to whisper to her seeds. You don't know the words, but your bones do. The 7th sprig rises during dusk, quietly as if it had always been waiting for the right silence. It grows near the broken spot, the edge that collapsed, where the first bowl was found. Its bloom never opens. It stays shut, round, dark. You touch it once, it shivers, and you know this one isn't for speaking or seeing. It's for carrying. It will hold the shape of this story until someone is ready to ask again. You do not paddle anymore. The lake brings what's needed. Your neighbor leaves baskets by your edge. Other farmers drift by, slower now, eyes softer. Even the birds seem to land more gently. There's a stillness here, not empty, full, thick with things not said, but felt. One night you dream of the Chainampa sinking, not violently, not ruined, just submerging, slow, chosen, and beneath the water, the blooms open all at once. The eye, the mouth, the hand, the heart, the mirror, the seed, and in their light you see thousands more, not floating, waiting. You wake before dawn. The soil is damp from dew. You walk the spiral once. Then again, not to check it, to greet it, it holds, it remembers. You kneel by the 7th bloom, place your hand over it, close your eyes and whisper, "This was never mine." The earth accepts your truth. You rise, wrap a cloth around your shoulders, and sit facing the east. The lake is quiet, the city still sleeping. You do not know if others will return. You do not know if more blooms will rise. But you know this: what we bury does not stay buried. What we name does not disappear. And what we grow sometimes grows us back. The wind moves one last time from the soil upward, and the spiral is whole, not marked by boots or grief or harvest. Just presence, just breathe, just roots remembering their shape. You press your palms into the earth, not to claim, to thank. You are not the end. You are the hand that passed it forward, and maybe that's enough. Maybe it always was. Not everything leaves a mark, but you were here.